My name is Eric Whitwer. I'm the current incumbent for the Village of Cambridge. Currently I'm the Plan Commission Chair and the Audit and Finance Chair. When I'm not working at the Village, I'm a financial program supervisor for the state of Wisconsin in the Controller's Office. So for better or worse, if you get a check from the state, it has my phone number on it. So if you don't get your stickers for your car, you would call me, and then I'd have to explain why it went wrong.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Borgart. I am a resident of Cambridge and have been since 1998. Me and my family own and have owned businesses here since my grandmother opened the little flower shop. And I'm running for board because there is a list of things that I'm concerned about, and I feel the best way to make a change is get involved.
Paula Hollenbeck. I moved to Cambridge in 1995 with my husband Dean. We live on Main Street between the two gas stations, so you pass my house probably every day. I work for Thrivent, do most of my work from home, so I'm in Cambridge all the time. And I previously served on the village board. I am looking forward to hearing what my fellow candidates have to say this evening. So thank you.
Well, I'm Timothy Phelps. I moved here back in June of last year. I'm a veteran, combat veteran also. And I want to get involved with Cambridge a little more because I believe there's a lot of things that can be done in the downtown area that I think too many empty storefronts. That's my opinion.
Okay.
So,
I support the expanding of the fire station personally. I know that Governor Evers just released a couple governor's releases stating that he is giving $30 million for stabilizing and $30 million for expansion of EMS across the state. I know that we are one of 152 EMS stations that are even eligible for this grant. So I feel it would be very important for the village board and the fire and EMS to come together to write for this grant. That way we can have the needs, which the fire and EMS knows, and the financial problems leading the village to not be able to meet these needs from the village board. I do not believe that no matter how much I personally agree with this, that we will get a yes vote if we don't get some fiscal assistance. We had a 10% tax increase this year. We have our water and sewer that goes up regularly. Cambridge is becoming a very expensive village to live in. And we're not getting a lot done for infrastructure such as roadways, wall work, stuff like that, scoping of sewage lines. I don't think the village residents are going to say, yeah, raise my taxes some more. So although I personally agree with it, I feel that we need to do some work to lower the cost for the residents to get a yes vote on it.
Okay.
Right. And what I
that's,
believe is the best direction for fire and EMS.
Yep.
I would say that I would like to see fire stay strictly volunteer. I think that that is a really important thing because we financially cannot afford for our fire department to go full time.
Yeah, about 10 seconds.
Being what it is why we are able to get these grants, why we're eligible for it. So I'm hoping we can stay steady with that.
So I support fixing the known issues with the fire department. So there are safety hazards at the fire department. That's something that, although other board members at the time wouldn't even discuss, it was something that I wanted to support. Now, the fix to that doesn't matter to me. It's up to the voters to decide whether they want a new station or what. But I'm in favor of making it a safe place for our firefighters to work. And the future direction that plays into that, because if we don't have a safe place for them to work, why would they want to continue volunteering? We would have to move to a full-time EMS, full-time permanent firefighters. And that is a financial hit that I know for a fact the village cannot take. One thing that I would be interested, I know back in the 1970s or so, the two departments were split into two. If possible, I'd like to see them merged back into one. And that's if we get full-time fire, because I don't see the need to have separate EMS and fire when you can have firefighters that are also the EMS. That's all.
So I support making changes that are needed, similar to what Eric said regarding the safety. I do not support the current iteration of the recommended changes for the station. I'm very disappointed in the commission that was put together in order to, when the referendum didn't pass the first time, they put together the commission, the commission came up with basically the exact same plan. So I don't understand what the exercise was of that commission. There were people on that commission who had some really good ideas and plans and suggestions, and I feel like the commission was not doing their due diligence on behalf of the people who voted against the first referendum and just trying to force what they want down our throats. And so I personally do not support the current iteration of the proposed station expansion. What we do in the future, I'm not exactly sure. I need to hear from people. I need to hear from what the people of the village think. Again, this is a combined effort. It's four municipalities that are responsible for this fire and EMS. And I feel like people need to come together and truly say what is the best path forward for Cambridge. I would like to see volunteers stay as much as possible. I definitely want to see safety combining. I think if we do go professional, I think Eric's point about combining is a great point. So I think there's good ideas in this community. The problem is we're just not listening to them.
I believe in expanding the fire EMS because without them, we don't have anything, and we need to make sure that they have the best equipment around to be able to take care of us when we need them. So I do back their referendum that they want.
Think one of the biggest things lacking in Cambridge is houses that people can actually afford. When my husband and I were starting out, we paid $42,000 for our first house. It was a duplex in Winona, Minnesota. And I don't see that Cambridge has an equivalent. If Dean and I were starting out and had to purchase a home in Cambridge where it's very difficult to find a house less than $250,000 here, I just don't know how we attract young people and families and even um, elderly on a fixed income. I don't know how we keep the vibrancy of Cambridge alive without having houses that people can afford. So that would probably be the first thing that I'd look at. Then the other thing, obviously, our downtown needs something. I don't know what we can do with downtown because the building owners um, aren't renting out their buildings, so there's very little we can do from that space perspective. I love the areas that are downtown and the businesses that are down there, and I'd want to make sure that we kept that. And then at one point, there was talk about a walking bridge from the Home Again area over to downtown. That's one thing that I think would be lovely in Cambridge, and I'd like to look at that. Outside our borders, I recognize, having been on the board, I recognize there's only so much we can do about what is outside of our borders. We don't own that. We can't annex all of that property all at once. We can't, there are limitations from a legal perspective on what we can do. Speaking up from an extraterritorial perspective, I think the village board uh, uh, putting in their comments for the intervener, I think I thought they advocated well for the village of Cambridge.
Well, quite frankly, any sort of growth at this point would be beneficial because I'm not sure what the future will hold. But the recurring thing that I hear is that there is not affordable housing and a lack of apartments specifically. There are people that can't afford a house because of how expensive they are around here. They want their children to go to our schools because they are awesome, but they can't get an apartment. And we did build a couple, we, as in the village, allowed two to be built. And there was pushback with that because it technically doesn't follow our current growth plan. The growth plan is supposed to be just for single family homes or commercial. So that was frustrating to hear the pushback that when the affordable income housing was proposed to be built by the vineyards, that they were up in arms. But the median family income of $70,000, I don't think I'd be able to afford an apartment at the affordable income housing. So that's something that really concerns me. Paula, I wanted to comment. So the at home again agreement that I had reviewed just the other week about that footbridge that you're talking about, there isn't anything specifically mentioned in the at home again agreement. I thought we were obligated to do it under that contract, but we're not. So it'd be a financial burden that the village would have to take on itself, which is not something I'd be particularly interested in doing. To the question of how do you propose responding to things beyond our borders,
Yeah.
I think we have told the line pretty well thus far. Under chapter 60, under chapter 66 of Wisconsin statutes, Wisconsin's a very strong private property rights state. The state can't tell you what to do with your land. So on one side, I can agree with that the farmers are just doing what's in their best interest. At the same time, the Invenergy needs to respect our growth plan, and their intent to take over all of what we had planned to grow into goes against our growth plan. And that is something that I would not stand for at all. I'm not against solar and I'm not against renewable energy. I just stay out of where we need to be able to grow, because without this, if you look at the maps from 50 years ago to where our village needs to grow in the next 50 years, we would have taken that entire space and filled it completely. So we need that room. We do need room to grow.
So I firmly believe our current TIFs are over, we can't do any more of those. We're financially in a very bad place because of what I have been told by many village board members are TIFs. And I'm wondering how many legal issues that could bring us. So I believe in the meantime, while we figure out those things, we should be focusing on our main street. I believe that, I guess, I don't really know the legalities of everything. I'm wondering if there's an ordinance we can write about how if you're way over the average square foot, is there a way we can walk in and say, okay, you haven't had this building rented in this long, you're impeding on our infrastructure. This is our average per square footage for rental space in the village. You're this far over. We would either like you to come down or we're going to have to fine you for impeding on our infrastructure, something like that. But I feel like to set up any more TIFs right now is something that is really gonna upset a lot of residents from what I've heard in talking to them. I know a number of them are unhappy with the current ones. When it comes to future development outside of our borders, again, I don't think it's something we should do until this is handled, because again, what kind of legal issues are we facing with these not being actual TIFs? But I would like to say that I feel that we have done the right thing by standing with Christiana. I don't know that I believe that we did the right thing by refusing the offer that was made to give us 116 acres for growth. That is 15% growth from what we have had in over a decade. So if the growth of Cambridge is that important, why would we not have accepted that offer? And then what other kinds of negotiations we could make? Now we have done nothing but upset Invenergy a lot when they were meeting a lot of our legal demands by moving it from our entryway, moving it from by our school. So at this point, we really don't have an option in future growth until this whole thing with Invenergy gets fixed. That I feel was a mistake. I feel we should have very much tried to negotiate with them as per what's best for the village. It is not our job to do what is best for every other community. It is the village board's job to do what is best and most sound for
Okay.
our community.
Like I said, just being new to Cambridge, I can't really speak very well about the borders and how we interact with the other outlying communities. Would it be great to try and have them come and be part of us? That'd be awesome. But they also have their own identity. But maybe we can refurbish some of the other buildings that are empty to create a better way of living here. I guess the storefronts would be one, and which we get some more stores, bring in more people that want to move here, and then work from there.
Um, we're looking at revamping our website, and I know Becky, you were at the meeting the other night. We've been talking about getting our website fixed because it's just atrocious. For one thing, you can't find us if you Google Cambridge, because our website address starts with ci.cambridge. So simple fixes like that, allowing people to find us easier. But more importantly, I was looking at some of the ARPA funds that we had received. I wanted to try and figure out a way to do partially virtual meetings where people that can't attend in person could still attend virtually, similar to how sometimes the school board meetings, they have the virtual capabilities. But to do that, it's pretty expensive. Our current room is not set up. When we plug in the microphones, you get a lot of feedback, and it's just not set up for that style of meeting. I think allowing additional people to attend just via virtual, like we're doing tonight, would increase the public's access to us. Part of that, though, they'd have to be able to ask questions. Currently, we don't really have a great way of funneling questions, information up to us. We get the people that are upset about things that come to public's comment time, but we don't also hear from the people that just couldn't make it to the meeting. So I'd like to hear more of that.
I think it would be absolutely phenomenal if we could figure out how to offer live forums like this, where people who are homebound can actually participate. I also believe that the village board itself should have a Facebook page where they can list major things that they are working on so they can receive the feedback from the community. People can post questions, they can post comments, they can give their opinions, and it's a lot easier than trying to figure out the current website. Like that, as Eric said, is quite the catastrophe at this point.
Is the website, we have a village website. We should use the village Facebook page because we have a village Facebook page, and the staff should be taking care of that. The board, I don't think, could participate in that because we would run the risk of having a walking quorum. And there are lots of rules about that interaction that a board can do where we run into trouble if we have more than 2 or 3 people at the same time, because you either have a quorum for a committee or you have a quorum for the board itself, and that gets us into all sorts of legal rules and issues. From a transparency perspective, one of the things that always bothered me when I was on the board is that the board meeting minutes are not released until the Friday before the board is held the next week. I would
Mhm.
like to see the village board meeting minutes distributed a week after the meeting, so that people have time to see what was on there. If they've got additional questions, they can go and ask our village staff those additional questions. They can seek out an individual board member and ask those questions of an individual board member of what was going on. I think there's a problem or a perception of people that the village board members have all sorts of side conversations. I will tell you, when I was on the board, I never had side conversations with people. I went to the meetings, I read my packet, I went to the meetings. If I had questions, I asked the questions during that meeting. So having access to the meeting minutes, having access to the meeting recordings, I think is the most important thing. But people have to take advantage of reading and listening and watching those things. And as far as I know, there's no secret meetings from a transparency perspective going on. Uh, I only can speak for what I knew when I was on the board and how I acted. Can't speak for everyone else.
I think that would have to start at the village trustee board level, and then pass a resolution saying that we are going to be transparent in all of these. We have meetings that we have that will happen that aren't public, but then make them public after they've happened with the exact things that have happened, or video record it and then play it that way so people can actually see what's happening.
Sure.
That's how I would attempt to go at it.
Is Main Street. We need to get the stores full and the outside of the businesses cleaned up. The curb appeal in Cambridge has completely plummeted, and I don't know many people who are going to drive through Cambridge as it is right now and think, oh man, I really want to spend my weekend downtown here. Like, that is a huge problem. We have ordinances about how you have to have awnings up, or you can only use certain colors for decorating for Christmas. Why don't we have ordinances about the appearance, the outside of your building must stay up to standard of? And I already talked about filling the main street and how I think I would like to at least discuss going about that. Next is budgets. I feel it is a really, really bad look to the Cambridge residents, as somebody who speaks to many Cambridge residents every single day, that we are running our public works and our water and sewer as one entity, and everything is being spent out of the general funds account. That leaves it really hard to track money. And I got that information from between going to meetings and people who work at the Public Works building. So I feel the information that I've received is pretty secure to say that if I'm hearing that, what is everyone else in town hearing? And how do we trust that our money is being spent wisely if it's all coming out of the general funds account? How do you even look at that from an accounting standpoint? Are we doing nothing but subsidizing everything when we hand it to the auditor? That is a problem. From a transparency standpoint, it's a problem. And the separating of public works and water and sewer, they're separate entities. They should be being run separately. That shouldn't even be a question. We are down to, I believe, 2.5 employees, 2 full-time and 1/2 or part-time employee running our public works. How is that happening? And my last one is definitely scoping of the sewage lines. Like, we have ordinances recusing the village board of any obligation to be held accountable for punitive damages if somebody has sewage backup due to tree roots growing, but our sewage lines haven't been scoped since at least 2018.
Address a couple of things that Becky has said. First, the like TIF. It's perfectly legal. It's called a developer's agreement. And you can enter in a contract for a developer's agreement and make whatever agreements you want as part of that developer agreement. So there wasn't anything illegal that we did as part of that. It wasn't a TIF. It was a developer's agreement, and those are common when there are developments coming into areas. I agree that the village board should not have accepted the offer for the 114 acres because it was only 114 acres, and then we had to withdraw all objections. And I don't think withdrawing all objections for just that little 114 acres was in the best interest of Cambridge. So I totally agree with what the village board did from that perspective. Water and sewer comes out of a completely different budget. It's completely different. There, water and sewer and money does absolutely not mix with public works money. So that's why our water bill goes up all the time and our sewer bill goes up all the time, because it has to be basically a self-funding entity for water and sewer. Public works is funded out of the general fund, just like other staff in the village, as well as the library staff. So all I want to say in closing is I really think Eric does a great job on the village board. I think everyone should, I would absolutely encourage voting for Eric, voting for Chris Brunig as well. Bringing him back on the village board, I think, would be a wonderful thing. Becky seems absolutely passionate about Cambridge and about making a difference for Cambridge. So I don't know that you could necessarily go wrong in a vote for Becky either, because I have never met Becky before. So, but I worked with Eric on the board. I worked with Chris on the board. I know both of them will be great additions if you vote for them on the board. And having new blood is always a good thing. So thank you all.
I know that they wanted to list your top 3 initiatives for future. I only have a few, and specifically our smart growth plan. It's coming due to be revised in 2024-25. I want to start that now. We spent a lot of money in this fight against Invenergy with special expert witness who could set us up to basically revise our smart growth plan. We've already paid for it. Through his expert witness, we already have a plan, but we have to have a plan A and a plan B for the future. We don't know what's going to happen. So the smart growth plan is my priority, and since I'm the chair of the plan commission, that's something that I would hope if I got reelected that I would be allowed to have, for continuity's sake, the opportunity to work on that plan. That is something that I really like to focus on. And Becky, I agree. I'd love to see the downtown thriving again. I can say I've been here since 2013, so I've never seen a thriving downtown, which is sad to say. It's been several years since we've really had a thriving community. I love this community for the fact that it's so it's just different. You know, it's artsy, but it's vibrant, and I would love to see that growing again. So there's some things that we can do downtown. There's some things that we can't legally do. Um, so that's another tight. We have talked a lot about that on the board. It's a tight thing to balance on what you can legally do and what you want to do. I would love to see things changed. But I do appreciate the fact that the community is so supportive of the downtown businesses. Yeah, I like it here. So if you want to vote for me, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. I just want what's best for the community.
I think I'd be a good candidate because I'm an outsider coming in. But at the same time, it can also be a slight drawback, not knowing everything about the community. But that's also a good thing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I can bring in fresh ideas to the community. And I can also learn from those that are already on the board, kind of like having them as a mentor to help me along with how Cambridge itself works. So I think being a fresh voice from outside coming in and having a 12+ year career in the service can help me with that and help Cambridge. I want to make a difference. That's why I'm here.